Well, good evening, all you boys and girls listening to this lonely podcast. Maybe all three of you. But if you have been following since day one, this might be Kenter at Your Own Risk number 14, might be 13, might be 15. But it is definitely the October 8th edition of Kenter at Your Own Risk, starring Kent, my illustrious go-getter, and Chris, the guy who's got the sniffles tonight.
The sniffles.
Yeah, I mean, I know you haven't experienced this too much, but when you have a kid, you don't realize, how much children are just like bundles of germs. Like, as soon as they go to school is like a fucking minefield. And they go, and they come home, with 60,000 times the germs that you sent them with. And then all you do is pray to not get sick, so you have to call out from work. Things my parents went through that I never even fucking realized.
Alright, so here's the thing, when I was in school, and not so much in college, but a little bit in college too, but especially in high school and stuff, I was the kid that got sick all the fucking time, so I missed a ton of school because I was sick. Now that I'm this lonely hermit, I don't get sick.
The guy who missed the whole year of high school. Did
you really?
If you add up all my absences, I missed 180 days from freshman year to senior year.
Dude, I've got to be... I don't even know. I remember my one history teacher told me he was going to fail me because I missed too much. I was like, okay, that's fine. I can't help that I had the fucking flu. I've never understood this. And then, I got a job working at an ARC, about a decade ago, and hopped right back into getting sick all the fucking time. So it's constant exposure to kids and shit. It's just, you're fucked as far as illness.
It's to carry along with what you were just saying is, I never realized really, how sickly I was growing up. I just assumed that was everybody, and for a big case it was. But when I finally, even in the Army, a lot of places I was stationed were either war zones or still relatively on that latitude. But when I got out and I moved back down to Florida, dude, so much of being sick when I was younger was just based on the allergies I had up in upstate New York, with the trees and the pollen and the mold and all that stuff. I moved down somewhere where it's sunny and you don't have the seasons, and as a result you don't have as many deciduous trees with the pollen. Dude, it's night and day. And then my son went to school and I'm like, Jesus Christ, buddy. But anyways, to get back in, we are going to be discussing our top 10 horror movies from the 1970s.
I have good news and bad news.
All right, we might be discussing that.
I learned that we're on episode 16. But at least I learned it.
That intro was completely... Okay, this is episode 16, guys.
Yay, corrections. All right. 1970s. I want to start off and just say that... All right. So, when I was looking through top 70s, I already had in my mind a few things. I forgot that Rosemary's Baby was not in the 70s.
Yeah,
that movie's fucking old.
Is it 63 or 68?
68.
Okay, yeah, I remember it's one of the ones with the rounded back on the number.
I'll say this. If we had done a list, I mean, this is going to be the fucking ultimate list someplace down the road. If we did something like 1976 to 1985, that 10-year stretch, I'm pretty sure that's almost entirely my top 10 horror list, except for 2 movies. All great horror was made within from 1976 to 1985. Almost all the greatest ones.
There's some older ones that are classics. And I think there are some newer ones that fall to, but I know, for example, you love slashers, and that period of time was basically the creation of that entire genre. So I mean, yeah, that's gonna significantly skew stuff like that. There's also a big, I don't want to say the beginning, but maybe the demonic side of supernatural horror. A lot of that the really best ones came out in that period of time too. So
Yeah, I mean, really, what it doesn't cover is the cool supernatural stuff of the late '90s and 2000s, like The Ring and Conjuring. And it doesn't, there's a few things it misses out on. Like, it wouldn't hit Nightmare on Elm Street 3 for me, for instance, or Candyman.
yeah,
But by and large, like, it hits. Like, if we said a top 10, I would say all 10 of those would be in my top 20 horror films. I think that's a fair assessment, at the very least.
I would say you're probably looking at about 30 to 40% of my top 10. But I say if you look at like a top 100, you're probably looking at like maybe 45 to 50.
Yeah, a huge percentage of those, like, middle to later. Yeah, I would agree definitely with that. But I had a lot of fun with this list. I knew I would, and then I was very analytical. You know how I get with this stuff. But I didn't go crazy this time.
I would like to do something a little bit different. I would like you to go first this time because I have a feeling that we're going to be able to talk a lot more about yours. And then if I have anything different, it's only going to be maybe one or two. So it'll be easier to add on.
Okay. As usual, I have a quick, small list of, and I'm serious, it is a small list of movies that I know were good. I either haven't seen them or they didn't make the top 10. I've never seen the Stepford Wives from the 70s, but I saw the remake with Nicole Kidman, and basically it's Get Out before Get Out.
That version was much more of a comedy, especially because it was a Frank Oz movie compared to the original.
But the concept was there, right?
I mean, that was basically the concept, but instead of, using Bette Midler or Matthew Broderick, Christopher Walken for the humor, take something more along the lines of like a Village of the Damned kind of feeling.
Gotcha. I know I've seen Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but it was so long ago I couldn't put it on my list, and it probably wouldn't have made my list, but I remember liking it.
There's been so many versions of that. The only one I really remember iconically was the original, just because it was the only one in black and white. But between the 70s version, the 90s version, I forgot what the other... They made another one in the 90s that had the original name of the short story. I think Benjamin Bratt was in it. Like, all of those kind of just blur together for me. But yeah, I remember like Jeff Goldblum and Donald Sutherland were in the 70s one, and it was good. But I don't remember like the detail. Like, I know I've sat down and watched it when I was younger, but I can't remember like the individual scenes, if you will.
Right, yeah, I'm in the same boat as I remember seeing it a long time ago. I also had When a Stranger Calls because everybody keeps telling me to watch it, and I'm going to get to it this month. I know I am. I know the premise of it. It sounds like it's something I'll enjoy, but I couldn't put it on my list, but I felt compelled to mention it at the very least. A few movies that I have seen that I don't have a rating because I never reviewed them was Last House on the Left, that was Wes Craven's first big hit. If not was that his first film or just his first hit? Do you know?
I can look it up for you, but I think that might have just been his first big hit, because I think are we talking like things with him helming it, or just things that he worked on?
Helm. We'll go with Helm.
Because I'm pretty sure he was around working on stuff before that.
Okay. So, I mean, the movie holds up adequately, but it's not. I mean, things have been done in that style to death, and probably better at this point, I would say. And while you're looking up, just in the same vein, I Spit on Your Grave.
Yeah, I hear you. I feel where you're going there. He had one writing credit before that, but yeah, it looks like that was actually his first on most of the roles that he's done throughout movie making.
Okay. The final one that I don't have a rating for, and I'm really mad at myself, is fucking Duel. With Fritz Weaver, Spielberg at the helm.
Yep.
I love that movie. It's so good, but I didn't have a rating, so I feel like if I had a rating, it would have hit my top 10, but Yeah.
That's actually in my top 10.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Now, for movies I did have rating that just didn't cut it, I'm just going to toss out names here. Stuff we've already talked about ad nauseum, I feel, in some regard. The Tales from the Crypt anthology, Romero's Dawn of the Dead, Shivers by Cronenberg, I think, which is underrated. Very underrated movie, in my opinion. The Legend of Hell House with Roddy McDowall is a good... It's really kind of a dark fucking haunted house type movie. It's solid. The Omen, I mean... The Omen's just fucking dated at this point. It can be a slog to get through, I think. Don't Look in the Basement, I really liked it, but I mean, I still only gave it a 5.9. And that was probably being generous. And finally, I had Eraserhead. Because I don't know how to properly rate that fucking movie. Have you ever seen Eraserhead?
Yeah, it's a weird one. Like, I feel you there on like not knowing how to rate it.
It's more art than film.
He was that who was that? Was that Kubrick? Who the hell did that?
No. That wasn't
David Lynch.
Lynch, yeah.
Yeah, dude, his stuff has always been weird, but like there was a lot of stuff in it. Like between him and Cronenberg in the 70s, a lot of their shit was just fucking out there.
I will side. If I had to choose between the two, I'd take Cronenberg. I just really love a lot of the stuff that Cronenberg did in the 70s and 80s. And I never knew that I liked it until I don't know, the past 5 years I slowly started watching more Cronenberg stuff and I got really into it. Lynch's stuff is good, but it's not always horror.
Yeah, he's just like, if anything, I would just say he's mostly a surrealist.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Mulholland Drive. That's probably a top 25 film for me from David Lynch. Just love it. But once again, it's just that weird genre. I mean, Lynch almost has his own genre to himself, really, I feel.
I've been told I need to go and sit down and watch like the whole Twin Peaks thing now that, they came out with season 3, 20 years later?
I never got around to watching Twin Peaks, and I want to, but I definitely have to be in the right mood to sit down and watch that, I think. I think it's just a requirement at this point for me. Yeah. How do you feel about The Omen? Is it too dated for you now?
It's a classic. I mean, it's hard to look at a lot of stuff from the 70s. Like, not as many movies from then were on the prints were original enough to be able to do like the high transfer copies. So I mean, a lot of them you look at and you see the graininess and everything, and no matter how good the movie is, like just the quality of the film stock kind of takes a shit on some of these things.
I just really dislike the pacing, to be perfectly honest. Like visually, visually that also affects, but some of the pacing, every decade the pacing picks up to a point where sometimes it's uncomfortably fast nowadays, actually. But there's also such thing as too slow of a burn, and I always felt that The Omen was a little too slow for me. Personal opinion. I had one final film that I don't think you consider it horror. And if you do, it's probably number 1, but I don't consider it horror. But I gotta just shout out to Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I mean, I don't know. It's not
horror,
no.
But it's horror-ish. And, yeah. All right. We'll move on.
Did you say Frankenfurter's a horror?
I mean, You've seen it. Yes, obviously.
Actually, I think I'm going as him for Halloween this year, so...
That's pretty solid.
Yeah. I was like, thanks, son. That's, well, yeah. I'm going to be rocking that at the party without you this year. That'll be fun. Hopefully I don't get raped.
Hopefully. All right. All right. Here's my top 10. There are 3 examples of movies that had the same score. So that's it. Number 10, I had The Hills Have Eyes, which was another Wes Craven movie. I always wonder, how do you feel? Do you prefer the original versus the remake?
I've never seen the remake.
Okay. The remake's similar, but I mean, they did what I always like in a remake. They took it a little differently, and I appreciated that. And I never know which one I really like more, but I usually try to give the edge to the original. So I don't know. I wanted to make sure that got in there. Number 9, and this is where I'm going to take a lot of flack from the 3 people that may listen to us. I have a tie. I have Rabid, which is Cronenberg, and it's great. And I have John Carpenter's Halloween, which I know a lot of people are going to say I have rated too low. Yeah, I know this.
I get where you're coming from. Like, it's the same thing with The Omen. You know, they're classics. They're held up as high examples of the decade and the genres that they reside in, but they're kind of overplayed. Yeah, and
Halloween is the...
It all depends on what you want to compare them to, because, I mean, like, people say it's the start of the slasher, but if you look, I mean, he's got a relatively low body count. The kills aren't, like, super creative like a lot of movies came out with later on. So, I mean, yeah, you can give it points for originality and for creating the genre, but then you look at what people have gone and done with it, and does it hold up necessarily?
There's a style to it, there's a sound to it, there's an idea behind it, and I have to give credit to all of that. And as a kid, I loved it. But it is the single horror film that I feel people put way too high up on a fucking pedestal, and I don't know. I think it's good. I gave it a 6.6. That's a good rating for me. It's just not the rating that, you know, you would think based on how everybody has such a fucking raging clue for Jamie Lee Curtis, the fucking Scream Queen. And I'm like, she's kind of bland in that movie. She's way better actually in the sequel, in my opinion. So,
yeah, I think, like, Jamie Lee was good, in the horror movies, but I really think, like, it was her comedy chops that really made her a good actress.
I agree.
Like, you look at something like Trading Places or True Lies, and, like, compare that to, like, a lot of the roles she did in the iconic horror movies that she was in, where it was either, just run around and scream, show a little TNA, or, be the bad girl and show some TNA.
Right. She was also in what? Prom Night, right?
Yeah.
That movie wasn't that good. Have you seen Rabid?
I have not. I was trying to remember which one it was, so I looked it up. I was thinking of The Brood, but that's not The Brood.
I've never seen The Brood, and it's long been on my list, and yeah. The Rabid has, if I remember correctly, a lot of TNA. It has one of the old school OGs, Marilyn Chambers, who did like a lot of softcore porn, I want to say, back in the day.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I was going to say, wasn't she?
Yeah, she's actually not a bad actress at all. Really, it's I don't know. Between this and Shivers, I definitely think it's like a really great Cronenberg double feature night if you want something that's got a little bit of sex appeal, but also kind of I don't want to say original idea, but the ideas were pretty solid and the execution was good. So, once again, Cronenberg fan. Number 8. A film that we've discussed, I feel like the last podcast, perhaps, Black Christmas.
I think we maybe 2 podcasts ago, and then like the last one, we were like, "Holy shit, they're doing a remake!" And how did it skip us, or how did we? Not see this?
With Carrie Ellis, yeah. Which the trailer looks awesome. I'm excited to see it.
You really think so? Because like, I heard about it, I got excited, and then I watched the trailer, and I was like, this looks almost like the second most I Don't Need a Man movie since, like, Maleficent.
Man, you just touched on a really sore subject for me. I need a sidebar just for like 30 seconds. I just finished Borderlands 3 this morning, and it was a great game, but my god, the girl power, women empowerment, whatever, 2019 could not have been more strong in this game, and especially the ending. I was like, we get it, but my god, they were basically just hitting us over the head with a fucking mallet with it, and that's not what Borderlands used to be about. So I have to say that I was just slightly disappointed in how that aspect was handled. But it was a great game, highly recommended. Will play over and over again. I just have to say that it was. Anytime that the end credits is this girl is on fire, or whatever that Alicia Keys song is, I was like, I openly groaned. I did.
Now you've got me interested about like what the hell happens in Borderlands 3, but
It's really good though. I will say that. But anyway, Black Christmas did a lot of things that we discussed this a while ago. Halloween gets all the props, but Black Christmas did a lot of cool shit too, and never gets the props. And they're kind of on equal footing in a lot of ways. Only Black Christmas had some comedy in it too, and I don't know. The newest remake has to be better than the first remake, and probably won't reach the grounds of the first one. I don't think so, but someplace in between's okay, I guess. Number 7, I had a tie. I had Phantasm and Amityville Horror, and I really had no idea where to put Phantasm because I don't have a number rating. So I was like, I'm just putting it here to be safe. It's somewhere in my top 10. I just don't know where. But Amityville Horror.
which for like the other thing, I was like, there's so many Amityvilles. Which one was that?
The one with. God, I keep on saying Josh Brolin. It's not Josh Brolin.
James Brolin?
Yes. The very first one, him and Margot Kidder, 1979. I remember my mom showing. This was like one of my original like 5 horror movies that I was allowed to see, and it always stuck with me. And even now, like the pacing's a little slow as usual, but it has enough big scenes that you kind of forgive the slow pace, and it's like, oh, like for 1979, this was really cool what they did with it. I don't know. And the fact that I don't know, I wasn't like the first, but it was one of the bigger, like based on a true story type thing, wasn't it?
They say it is. Like, I've been to the house that they say inspired it. It's on Long Island, by the way. But like, I think it's one of those things where it's like there's a grain of truth in the story, and then they fucking run with it and turn it into ghosts, Satan, whoever possessing the father and causing him to kill the family.
Oh yeah, the movie blew this way out of proportion. I don't believe hardly any of the crap that happened, but I don't know how many movies back in the day were like kind of sort of that whole based on a true story ideology. I don't really know.
I mean, Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah.
I mean, they threw it in a amalgamation of Ed Gein, and then I forgot what the dude's name, but the dude who Copper's Cove, Texas, who cut people up with a chainsaw, merged them together into one person, and voila, Leatherface and his family.
I just want to throw out this interesting tidbit. The writer of the screenplay for Amityville Horror, his first name was Sandor. So,
you ever see like really interesting names like that, and you're like, what the fuck? Why am I Chris?
Absolutely.
I remember the lead singer for Third Eye Blind. His first name was Arian, but not like Aryan, like the Germanic, Aryan race, but like Arion. I was like, that's a fuck. Who the fuck names their kid that?
I I love original names. I will say this, and I do not want to take this to be taken racist, but my goodness, I do not. I like original names. I don't like names where it's just like an everyday name and then you add LE or LA at the beginning of it, because that's not original to me. La Chris, no, just do Chris. Lamarcus, I can almost get on board with Lamarcus, but I still like Marcus better than Lamarcus. I don't know. I think
Marcus Lee.
Hmm?
What about Marcus Lee?
Marcus Lee. That's not bad.
I think it's kind of crap, but whatever.
I mean, you can do different things. It's just
Oh, you can do whatever you want, name, but the kid has to live with it afterwards. Like a couple of my aunts have nicknames where it's like a mishmash of two aunts' names. So like I have a Nicolita for Nikki and Alita. I have an Aunt Janellen for Jenny and Helen. My niece is Terralina. I don't know where the hell that came from, but
T-A or T-E?
TarahLena.
Wow. That's a name that I've never heard of.
Yeah, I was but you can't shorten it at all. It has to be Terralina.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to get back to Phantasm for a second. I feel like we may have talked about this in the past, but Phantasm has to be one of those movies that's never going to be remade, right?
Don Coscarelli's still alive, isn't he?
He is, just not Angus Scrimm.
Yeah, so they'll probably wait until he dies, and then whoever owns the studio rights will be like, "Oh, let's remake it now that he's dead. You can't say no."
My concern isn't even so much like that they do a bad job. I just don't think you can go back in that place and time and update it to a point where it's watchable. Even I think it'd be an unwatchable mess. Because Phantasm's a weird watch as it is.
It would be one of those situations where they're just using the name and they've had to change the story so much that why bother?
Yeah. It really is a why bother. Or no bother. Winnie the Pooh. Alright. My number 6 is Suspiria, which I know we're going to talk about. Oh wait, no we're not. So Suspiria's on here for the reason of the music and the visual, and the storyline's not bad. It's a really good collection of all three of those things coming together to make a very unique experience. And that's really all I'll say about it, because Chris doesn't have much to add to that, I'm sure.
Wise ass.
And we'll move right along to my last set of ties. Number 5. I have The Exorcist and The Wicker Man. And in hindsight, I feel like The Wicker Man's actually the better of the two movies, but I gave him the same rating. Did you even... I mean, just curiosity's sake, is Wicker Man even in your top 10?
It is not, no.
Okay. I had this gut feeling that it wasn't. I don't know.
I don't dislike it, like the remake, but a lot of people, I want to say, have like put it on a pedestal since the Nicolas Cage one came out. It's a good movie, but it's not like great for me.
I did the smart thing. I'd never seen the Nick Cage one, so I decided to watch the original, then the Nick Cage one, and I'm really glad that I did, because had I seen the Nick Cage one first, I don't think I would have even bothered with the original. As you know, I just like creepy fucking cult type shit, and so, I mean, for me that worked great. Plus the singing, there's a lot of tits and stuff. It's a solid movie for me.
Did you see Midsummer?
No, I don't even know if it's out on disc yet. I know it's out on digital, and I'm going to get to it this month because everybody keeps saying it's a great movie, great movie, great movie.
Yeah, let me know what you think. I haven't seen it yet, but like when I was watching the trailers, I was like, this looks like an attempt to do like a real remake of The Wicker Man, with its own new stuff.
And it has a good cast too. It has a lot going for it. I'm excited for it. Yeah. Exorcist. I'm sure Exorcist has to be on your list somewhere. I think everybody can agree it still holds up pretty well, I think.
One of the things I like about it is the fact that it really shows like what you would go through, like how much a possession actually would put somebody through. There are only a handful of movies that really, I think, show it. A lot of them are like, and then as soon as the exorcism happens, the person's like, oh, I'm fucking great, kind of shit.
Yeah, it'd be a horribly, daunting task. Absolutely. Also, the movie has a great cast. Like, I like Ellen Burstyn?
Burstyn, yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of Max von Sydow, so those two alone. I don't really know if I have an opinion on Linda Blair, but she did a really good job in this particular film.
Yeah. I mean, she only did a handful of things after that, but Reagan was one of the best fucked up kids in the movies up until that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Still holds up today. So it held up so much so that they made a porno, I think in the 90s, called The Triple Exorcist, which I also reviewed at 9deuce.com. Just wanted to throw that out there for everybody. Okay, number 4. The movie that, is just better than Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't understand, I don't understand why Texas Chainsaw Massacre isn't in the slasher genre. What does it do that doesn't qualify it for slasher genre, in your opinion?
I always thought it was in the slasher genre.
Then why does Halloween get all this credit for being the OG in slasher?
I don't know.
Okay, see, that's my point. I'm glad that you played along with my wording here. I don't get it. Halloween gets all this credit for being like this original slasher, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre did it, I think, 3 years prior, and such a good fucking film. It's creepy. There are some legit points that are still fucked up. The hitchhiker scene is still fucked up. I don't know. To me, the graininess helps. I also like the remake, so I don't know. I just prefer this. This is the highest rated movie of its type on my 70s list. Number 3, and I was surprised that this was as high as it was. I had Carrie. It's a really well-made movie.
It is, and you can definitely tell when somebody who doesn't typically do horror does horror and they want to do a good job at it. I guess a lot of De Palma's movies have been thrillers, kind of verging on that genre, but you could definitely, and between him and Stephen King, it's one of the best conversions that they've done of a Stephen King movie too. So,
and it's the only version of Carrie that's good. I don't even because there's 3 versions of Carrie plus Carrie 2: The Rage, which also was a fucking joke.
There was this one. There was the one with Chloe Moretz. What was the other one?
There was one in 2002. Christ, I don't even remember who was in it at this point. I think it was 2002. 2002. It was a TV movie. It may have actually been on fucking Lifetime of all things. Angela Bettis, who I love, and Patricia Clarkson, who I like, are the 2 main stars in it. But it lacked a lot. There was a lot to be desired with it. So, It's a shame. Angela Bettis is a great talent. Still love her in May, but not a good effort. So, I don't know. How'd you feel about the Chloe version?
It was okay. It wasn't great. It was,
Average?
yeah, it wasn't a bad movie. It just wasn't, like a lot of Stephen King things when they try to, oh, we're going to remake it and stay truer to the book, and then kind of lose some of what made the original scary.
The thing that none of them ever got right, aside from the original, is the opening thing, like Carrie in the girls' locker room. And I'm not saying this just for the TNA. I'm saying that they fucking nailed that point. Like, they did such a good job with just that scene alone that you're hooked and wondering, how this poor girl's going to deal with things. I don't know. I thought the opening was really, really good. I don't know if it was the opening scene. It was in the very beginning, though, at the very least. My memory's a little hazy.
Yeah, it was towards the beginning.
Yeah. All right, number 2, Jaws. Nobody's surprised. We've talked about Jaws, I feel like, on almost every fucking podcast, because somehow it wriggles its way into most of these top 10 because it's a really well-made movie.
I think the only thing that could top us talking about Jaws and Home Alone would be to make a movie with Kevin McAllister / Jigsaw riding a shark.
Oh my. That would be...
That, or like there's a booby trap in like the temple where his body is layered that his little cult of survivors have made, and it's surrounded by sharks with lasers.
Ooh. Well, I mean, now you added lasers. Yes. Actually, speaking of Macaulay Culkin, he just narrated some video on The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, like this past week. I was like, what connection does Macaulay Culkin have to The Rock? It was just one of those silly things. It definitely made me laugh. So I don't know, random. I know, but
did you watch the new Chappelle special?
No, I have not.
He does a section about Michael Jackson and Macaulay Culkin.
Oh,
he's like, I don't believe any of those people were molested by Michael Jackson, because look at Macaulay Culkin said he wasn't molested by Michael Jackson, and he's like, I'm not a child molester, but if there's one little kid I would have fucked, it would have been Macaulay Culkin.
There you go. Oh, that's great. That's on Netflix, right? The Chappelle one.
Yeah, that was the brand new one. I was dying when I when I heard that. I was like, well, yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah. All right. Finally, I feel this was obvious all along, and I don't know, maybe it's not so obvious, but The Shining, because it's still one of the greatest films in general made. Oh shit, The Shining was 1980.
I'm glad I didn't throw that on my list.
Wow. So I'm glad that we're recording this moment in my stupidity.
Well, you are the one who has editing power, so you can always fix that.
Oh, no. It's far more entertaining to leave this bit of idiocy in. All right, so just to recap, Jaws, my number 1 movie from the 70s.
Does that move Phantasm or?
Yeah, everything just kind of jumps up a notch, and the new number 10 movie is Tales from the Crypt, the British anthology movie. Can I just slink away into the corner now and let you do your top 10?
No.
Okay.
But I'm not going to hold you to it. I mean, I understand where you were coming from. Truthfully, that to me feels like a 70s movie.
It feels like the cap, like the cap of the 1970s, but when the fuck did it? I mean, I know it came out in 1980. It came out in June. If it came out in January, I would make
They were probably filming it 79.
Oh,
because of the winter. So, I mean, there you go. They filmed it in the 70s.
I mean, God only knows. I don't even know how long they freaking filmed that movie, because, I mean, it's famously, one of the longer was it most takes for scene or
Yeah,
whatever?
but they only filmed for like 40 days, if I remember correctly, somewhere around there.
Oh my gosh. So yeah,
So, but yeah, it would have had to have been in like the winter of '79 or '78, depending upon how long post production took.
yeah. Well,
The feeling post production took place in a much like closer to the filming time frame back then than it does now.
yeah.
Since if you needed to do reshoots, you couldn't digitally alter shit.
Well, on the plus side, I will say this. The day that we do the top 10 horror films from the 80s, spoiler alert, The Shining will probably be that number one for me. Yeah. All right.
I'm really surprised that one of mine didn't even show up on your list. Like some of the other ones, like most of them we mirror. Some of them were flip flopped, which I thought was funny. So.
All right, take it.
All right. Well, my number 10 was The Omen, and it's my number 10 for a lot of the reasons that it made your honorable mention. It didn't make your top 10. The pacing, but it's I think a lot of my '70s movies, I saw them when I was younger, so you have to go back to like the first time you saw that feeling, and like the kind of the reveal, the building dread, and the reveal, and then Damien basically winning at the end.
Wow, were you a kid when you first saw it?
Yeah, I want to say probably somewhere between like 6 to 9, 10-ish. Back when like HBO was one of the easiest places to go to access like movies. Yeah, I mean, I know it wasn't like something that my family brought home on video, but I do remember seeing it when I was a relatively young kid.
See, I didn't see it until my 20s. So I think that may actually have a lot to do with our placements, quite frankly. It would make sense.
I wouldn't doubt, like we were saying that maybe 2-3 podcasts ago. Like you look at Jaws. It's a great movie. It is definitely considered a horror movie at the time, but you have like a kid come out and watch it now and be like, "What the fuck is this shit?" It's not scary.
It might be entertaining to a kid, but it's not scary. No.
Whereas, like in 1977, it was 77, right?
We'll go 77 or 78, one of those two.
Yeah. When it came out, I mean, it scared people. Nobody went in the fucking water for an entire summer. Like,
75.
so okay, so yeah, but I mean, Jesus, like think about that. Nobody fucking went swimming at the beach for an entire summer because of a movie.
Right. That phenomenon still has never been matched. The closest thing was Blair Witch, and that really didn't stop a whole lot of people from camping.
Yeah, so I mean, like definitely when you see something changes your perspective of it. And again, like a lot of horror movies, like I specifically don't go back and rewatch them because I don't want to lose, You don't
want to tarnish your image from your childhood?
Yeah, like one of the first things I did when Netflix originally came out and they used to do the discs in addition to the streaming was I was like, oh, you know what? Let me go back. I got on a big 80s kick. And so I went back and watched a lot of the 80s movies, from when I was growing up and to see which one. And like, dude, there were so many of them that were just like favorites when I was growing up, and I watch them now. I'm like, holy shit, this movie was horrible. Like Beastmaster, I loved that movie when I was a fucking kid. Going back and watching it like 25 years later, yep, it's a fucking piece of shit.
What makes you cringe more? Going back and watching, and this is kind of on topic, going back and watching cartoons that you really enjoyed as a kid, or video games that you really enjoyed as a kid? Which one's more cringe-worthy for you?
Cartoons, definitely cartoons. Because, I mean, like so many of the gameplay things that we just take for granted now came about in the time that we were a kid. Like, I mean, shit. When I was born, I really think like Pong and maybe like just one or two arcade games were the only things out there. And, like, so I grew up, and you're only, like, what year were you born?
1980, the same year as The Shining.
Okay, so you're only a year younger than me, so you went through the same thing. We saw the evolution of shit from like 2-bit shit in the arcade to a little more advanced to home systems to Nintendo to, so
Yeah, I grew up on Atari. I mean, that was it.
Atari. My grandparents had like a ColecoVision instead of an Atari. So I mean, even going back to like the old computers, like the Commodore and the Amiga and shit. There's still value in going back and seeing what was able to be done. But like watching, there was a cartoon on that I used to watch every day called Galaxy Rangers. That when I was a kid, seemed awesome. And I went back and I got the whole thing from Netflix, and I'm like, God, this is so hard to sit through and watch.
I'll tell you. I'll give you 2 cartoons that I went back and tried rewatching, painfully so. One I knew was going to be terrible because I knew it was terrible then. But the Legend of Zelda cartoon, I have the DVD. Goodness. But G.I. Joe was probably my favorite cartoon for at least a few years. And as a kid, there was one question I always had, and to this day I still have it. All these expert, like, military personnel, and nobody dies?
Yeah, I mean, nobody can shoot anything, ever.
Like, you see 100 bullets flying, nobody gets got, though. Just kind of weird. But I digress.
I mean, certain... Like, part of what made certain TV shows work and certain didn't were, like, the plot lines. Some of them had them, some of them didn't. Because, I mean, the majority of cartoons when we were growing up were basically just to sell toys, and it worked.
It worked so well.
He-Man, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all that shit. So,
and even like movies, they've turned it into a cartoon just to sell the damn toys, like Ghostbusters.
Yep. So anyways, digressing back to my list, because I fucking forgot what we were doing for a second.
Yeah.
My number 9 was Carrie. Like, I like it as a movie. I just, like, for me, my top ranks of any kind of list are going to be the things that scared me the most, and I just don't think it's, like, it's a horror movie, but I don't think it's a scary movie, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get you.
My number 8, which I can understand you leaving it off, but I think it's a really good version of a nihilistic version pre-Anne Rice of vampires, but Salem's Lot.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. I knew I assumed that you were gonna have it on there. I wasn't a fan of it.
Like, it's not. I kind of like the remake too, but one of the things I like about the story is just that, like, you're not saving everybody. Like, 90% of the town dies. A whole bunch of little kids die. Fucking, some of the main characters die. And even though they end up getting to do it in the end, it's not like a happy ending. That I think more than anything else epitomizes the 70s horror for me. It was very nihilistic. There was maybe like the first decade where, like, you were much more likely to have everybody lose in a horror movie than you were to, have somebody alive and happy at the end.
Yeah, I honestly feel that someday I'm going to watch Salem's Lot and it's finally going to click for me and I'm going to like it, because there are quite a few movies that require repeat viewing before I finally I finally like it.
I like some of the themes. I like the story. I like how they did the vampire. Like, he's like one of the creepy looking, like, German fangy long ear hair coming out of his ear kind of vampires, rather than like the other vampire that they were doing in the 70s, like this sexy Frank Langella Dracula kind of thing going on,
right?
Or even Blackula, who is relatively a sex symbol compared to dude like this.
Blackula was just on sale this past weekend, and I really wanted to pull the trigger, but I did not. It was $5 on Vudu.
Okay.
I really love that movie.
I know. I remember. Shit, I forgot when you went over it, but didn't you go over like 2 or 3 of them? Was it last year or the year before in your?
I think it was last year that I did it. Yeah. and I had a blast with it. I really did. It was a really cool
it's
idea.
one of those blaxploitation movies that gets a reputation, but it was actually a decent movie in its own right. You know, there's just the fact that it gets tarnished by association with the rest of the genre.
Oh, absolutely. It really stands out as actually a decent film. Absolutely.
Then my number 6 was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't really think I have anything to add to this. Like, part of the reason probably for me that it's my number 6 is because I saw it much later than I saw my number 4. Or maybe, wait, hold on. Do I have 11 on my list? I might have 11 movies on.
Oh, maybe I'm not the only idiot. Yay.
Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nope. No, I have 10. You know what? Because I skipped 7. Texas Chainsaw is number 7 for me. Sorry. My numbers are screwed up on my written thing. But it is my next one in terms of moving up my list.
All right.
Yeah, I was older when I saw this for the first time. So that might be part of what distinguished it for me compared to the other one.
I think I saw it like when I was probably in that, I don't know, 11 to 13 range, and my mom really didn't want to rent it for me.
I remember I definitely saw it years after I saw Summer School for the first time.
Okay, so yeah.
Because you remember, like, the whole, like, the two dudes did their dissertation on Texas Chainsaw Massacre to graduate in that movie.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's fond memories for me. Although I stupidly rented like part 1, 2, and 3, and my goodness, the sequels, especially the original sequels, the latter variations of Texas Chainsaw, some of the sequels aren't bad, but like Texas Chainsaw 2 is really fucking bad. The original one with like Bill Moseley in it, terrible.
Did Toby Hooper do all of them?
I don't think so.
He did 1 and 2.
Oh, he did do number 2. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So one of the interesting things about those movies, and I found this out when I was reading Bruce Campbell's biography, was I believe in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there is a poster on a wall in one of the rooms, and it's a Wes Craven movie. So it was almost like they were suggesting that, like, if you thought this movie was scary, watch this one, because this is just a fiction. That's just a fictional fucking thing for our characters in this. And so Wes Craven went, in the next movie he did, he threw up a Texas Chainsaw Massacre poster in his movie. I think that might have been The Hills Have Eyes.
Did they do the same thing with Wes and Sam Raimi?
So when Sam Raimi made Evil Dead, he was like, "Oh well, let's one up both of them," and he threw up the Wes Craven poster in Evil Dead. And Bruce Campbell was like saying, Sam was like saying, if you thought that was scary, watch this one. So I believe that, like, one of Wes's later movies, he threw up an Evil Dead poster in the wall. It might have actually been Nightmare on Elm Street.
I believe it was. Now, quick question. What was the name of this autobiography that you read?
If Chins Could Kill.
I have an autographed copy of Hail to the Chin.
I have If Chins Could Kill, Hail to the Chin, and If Chins Could Kill Part 2. But none of them have autographs. But I do have an autographed postcard that I got from being a Bruce Campbell fan club member on his webpage back when the internet was first, like, really kicking off in the mid-90s.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
Yes, it's in a shrine.
Fair enough. I just got I say this unfortunately, like, I just got, like, a week or two ago, autographed picture of Sid Haig, which,
Was that where you put up on Facebook?
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, but I did see that. That was pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
Now, my number 6, I've seen it once, and I remember it scaring the shit out of me when I was a kid. But Duel, like I haven't ever re-seen it, so I don't know if it holds up. But like I remember the whole concept fucking scared me, and like they've reused the concept a couple of times in different movies that didn't try to be just a remake, which I enjoyed.
Joyride and Jeepers Creepers, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of. Yeah. And both of them ended up being decent movies. So I mean, obviously something had to be there. But yeah, I do remember like I thought it was funny. Like I didn't know anybody in the movie, but I knew Spielberg's name at the time because shit, he was already famous by the time I was old enough to start really watching movies. So like I don't know. Like I don't know if it would hold up now, but I remember it scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. So
It's not scary, but the movie still holds up, I think, incredibly well, like as the proverbial cat and mouse chase. And I also want to say in Wolf Creek 2, they also kind of have a little bit of duel going on. I mean, you see, I want to say there's even a few others, but like that was, as far as I know, the original like chasing on the road kind of idea, and it was just executed really well.
yeah, like if I remember correctly too, like don't you really never get an idea of who the fucking dude is?
I don't believe that you do. It's been a few years for me. But yeah, I mean, Jesus, that was 71. It was only rated PG, which is also interesting to me.
Oh yeah, looking at like some of the ratings on these movies, and then you look at like what gets a 13 now, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's well, the rating system was just a little different back then, obviously.
Yeah, well, or it's a little different now. I mean, shit, we can have fucking violence and swearing, but you show a tit and it fucking turns into a fucking R.
Yeah, yeah.
Two tits, I guess. Turn it into an R. So then, my number 5 would be Phantasm. I don't know what it is about it, but I just really fucking dug that movie. Like, it's weird. It's fucking out there. Like, what? How did you describe it? Like, it's the only movie you'd have where you could see like an old dude throwing his balls at a kid's face, and it'd be okay with it.
Yeah, those words may have come out of my mouth. It's true though.
Like, even I don't like a lot of movies that do the gimmicky like fake ending, but like they do it like 3 times, and I was okay with that.
It's good in, even the sequels kind of try to hold true to the ideology, and I have to say, Phantasm 5, which was the most recent one, is actually like one of the saddest horror movies I have ever seen in my life. Like, I don't know how many horror movies I can sit there and be like, oh, I'm really sad. No, that movie was absolutely fucking sad if you followed the whole Phantasm journey.
Wow.
Yeah, weird, right?
Yeah.
Also, I want to know what came first, the Cuisinarts in Phantasm or like the Kitchen brand Cuisinart.
Oh, Kitchen brand.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just curious how you knew that so fast.
Because Cuisinart is actually a French phrase that they've been using in cuisine for hundreds of years.
Okay.
And eventually somebody was like, oh, we can use that to make a kitchen appliance and sound highfalutin.
All right. Well, that bumps me out. I was kind of hoping for Phantasm to be the right answer.
I didn't realize there was 9 years between Phantasm 1 and Phantasm 2.
I don't know, like, if I don't even know if Phantasm made much money. Like, it's just a weird movie.
I don't know. My other question, though, is like, back in the day, did you have to make a lot of money to be a successful movie?
I don't know if so much as successful, but I mean, you had to make the money to get the sequel. I feel, right?
But I mean, we like the fact that was like the blockbusters didn't show up into the 70s. Between Jaws and then Star Wars, that really created the whole idea of a summer blockbuster.
True.
You didn't used to have movies, hanging out in the theater for like weeks or months or anything. So
I'm looking on IMDb and I see this thing on the side, and there's a new Phantasm collection coming out this month with the replica Cuisinart sphere.
interesting.
It looks pretty awesome, actually. It's probably gonna be like fucking $100 or some shit, and I'll never get it. But just saying.
Gotcha. All right, so then my next one, and again, this probably is a lot more based upon when I saw it, but Halloween. So I think we basically had a vice versa for Halloween and Texas Chainsaw on our list.
Let's see. I had Halloween at 9 and Texas at 4.
Okay, so 7 and 4
Yeah,
instead.
pretty close.
And again, like we saw them in the opposite version order for each other, So I think that makes a lot of a good explanation for why we had them in that order.
Wait, you saw TCM first?
No, I saw TCM after I saw Halloween.
So did I.
Halloween before.
Halloween may have been my first horror movie I ever saw.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, then maybe then ignore everything I just said, and I had a Kent.
It creeped the fuck out of me as a kid. It really did. And like I really wasn't sure why my mom showed it to me, but I absolutely loved it as a kid.
Kent, see this? This is what happens, huh?
Absolutely, this is what happens, and it's okay. Like I'm eternally grateful for her showing me these movies back then.
All right, so my number 3 is Jaws. I don't think I can say anything that you haven't already said when we covered it.
Yeah, something that we haven't covered. Like 3 years from now, we'll do a podcast and actually have something original to say about Jaws. It might happen.
Well, I've been holding off talking about Jaws: The Revenge, where the shark screams, but anyways,
is that 2 or 3?
That was The Revenge. That was 4.
Oh,
ish.
okay.
Yeah. My number 2 is Exorcist, and I won't cover that because we've gone over that ad nauseum multiple times. And my number 1, which was what surprised me, you completely leaving off your list, even your honorable mentions, was Alien.
Motherfucker. Yeah. Wow. I looked at 2 lists. I was like, well, they had to have covered everything. They did not include fucking Alien.
I'm not gonna lie, like, it's probably the scariest one out of the series, but like, after I saw that for the first time, I want to say for like 8 years, every night I slept up with at least the sheets pulled over my mouth so a facehugger couldn't jump on my face while I was sleeping.
That's good strategy.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch The Nightmare on Elm Street when I was a kid, so they didn't fuck me up as much. But like, out of all the scary movies that I saw when I was a kid, none of them fucked me up as much as Alien did. I wanted to be like, thanks, Mom, for giving me nightmares for like a good 8 to 10 years.
Okay. I need to quickly update my top 10 list and say that Alien comes in tied at number 2 with Jaws. I had it tied with Jaws. That's how highly I hold Alien.
I will accept that.
Oh, wait, no. It'd be tied at number 1 because The Shining doesn't exist in the 70s.
Okay.
So, Alien, I completely forgot my number 1 movie in theory. So, I'm having a really good day.
We both are. Oh, dude, I won't lie. Like, I was busy doing something, and all of a sudden, I got your text. I was like, oh, shit, I fucking forgot about Cat. My bad.
That's
Internet,
right.
you can forget that. I didn't say that.
The worst part is I actually spent time doing this list, and I still just...
Dude, I literally watched a fucking movie and made my list yesterday, and then I forgot we were doing it tonight.
That is an impressive... I don't even know what you call that. That is impressive.
Well, there you go, Kenters. That is our top 10 lists of the best 70s horror movies.
And not 1980 movies.
And we agreed. Our number 1 was the same. So We rarely get that. And oh no, I don't. Probably about 50% of the time we've been the same, and the other 50% we've been completely different. So, half and half.
Yeah, I'd say a good half and half. We should probably just reveal the top 10 for next podcasts in this podcast.
So, if you follow us monthly, we might be taking like a slightly 2-month break, 1 month off, do it in 2 months. If you follow these just whenever you get around to downloading them, then number 18 is going to be the top 10 best holiday-themed horror movies. All the holidays out there, including Arbor Day.
I'm curious, and see, right now, I don't have any idea exactly what's going to go on there, because I think once I do some research, a lot of movies that are in my head are going to get off the list. I'm just curious if Jack Frost actually makes my top 10. I'm hoping it does, but I'm not sure if it will. But he's chilling and killing is one of the greatest things on the cover of a horror movie, as far as I'm concerned.
It definitely sticks out in my mind.
Because it had the lenticular cover. Like, it was a can't miss movie if you were into horror and you went to video stores back in the day.
I mean, like, one of the things back in the day was like, I don't know, does it really seem to me like movies came out a lot slower back then?
Yeah.
Not even just like, like from release to video, but like maybe we made less movies over the course, because like now it just, like, I don't think you could do a video store, because you would have to buy so many fucking titles just to be able to keep up with everything.
Yeah, you'd almost have to have either a huge store or genre-specific stores because nowadays, in theory, you can make a film on your fucking phone because the cameras are so good on our phones that they outdo any camera technology we've had, like a real person we've had access to, aside from like millionaires. Like, our phone is just as good as like video cameras from, I don't know, 10 years ago even.
I was talking with some people about technology. I mean, and look at like Blade Runner. Like, that movie was supposed to take place in 2017, and they had flying cars, and they had replicants, and they had, that whole fucking test that you could do to see who was an android and not. But they didn't have a fucking cell phone like we have. They didn't have the internet like we have. Like, so many people thought like the advances that we would see would be in transportation and, like robots and automation and kind of stuff like that. But look at like what we've done with medicine and communication and that kind of technology, and it's kind of amazing.
One thing that, they did predict pretty well was like the whole idea of video chat, like video phone calls. We basically have that now.
Oh yeah. I mean, think about like Aliens. Like when Paul Reiser calls her on the phone, and people were like, "Oh my God, you can see him in the phone."
Yes.
Now you can do that in the palm of your hand.
Yes. Yeah, it really is interesting but you know what? I just saw a fucking robot do like this whole acrobatic routine, like Olympic style, and I'm like, I hope I'm dead before our robot overlords just completely brutalize us. I'm just hoping for that.
Well, I mean, we got to worry because robots hate old people, and we're getting there.
Yeah, we are slowly. Yeah, I'm a little bit more than a year away from being 40, which isn't old. Like, I still consider, I don't even know what old is anymore.
2 weeks, and I hit 40.
Like, do you consider, like, I know 40 is a milestone and yet it's considerable for something, but I don't consider it old. I don't know.
Shit's changed.
Everything's just different.
When we were young, 40 was old.
Yeah.
Well, 40's always been middle-aged, but I mean, when you're fucking 15, thinking about somebody 40, like, that person's fucking old. But, I mean, hey, we just live longer. Like, back then, 65, 70, that was a good life. Now, you fucking put 90, 100. My great-grandfather died a couple of years ago, And we figured out that because his parents lied about how old he was to keep him out of being drafted in World War One. So we figured he had to be between 104 and 112 when he died.
Wow.
You know, I mean, that 112 would have been like the extreme outlier for what they would have been able to get away with the lie. Or, you know, at a minimum, he would have been 104.
Jesus. Yeah. That's pretty old.
I mean, that's a fucking long time to live. Like, I'm like, Jesus Christ, fucking.
I don't know if I have any relatives that managed to get to 80, so I'd like to think that my family history has a brass ring that probably I'm not going to reach because I'm a fat ass and I like food too much. But I'm okay with that. But someday somebody in my family will reach the 80. I have to have faith in that.
I hope it's you, but if it's not, it's been nice to know.
Yeah, I mean, just bury me with a box of Slim Jims. I'm good. You know what? Wait, before we end this, I just want to say my displeasure this fucking year in that I have not been able to find any fucking Count Chocula. Been able to find fucking Frankenberry. Been able to find Blueberry. Can't fucking find Count Chocula. And
Would you like me to send you some for Christmas?
Oh my God, yes.
I've seen Count Chocula down here, but I haven't seen any Frankenberry or Blueberry.
Yeah, I'll pay for the fucking shipping. I don't care. I just want some Count Chocula.
Next time I go grocery shopping, I will specifically take a look for you.
Thank you. I seriously have been wanting to post on Facebook, like asking people, and I'm like, that's a really weird thing to post, and I was like, is it though, coming from me? Yeah. All right.
Well, on that note, we are going to wrap up our Cantor at Your Own Risk number 16.
Yes.
And conclude our top 10 1970s horror movies. If you're following us immediately, we'll be back with our discussion of our movies this month, or movie and 2 movies that just showed up randomly this month. If you're not following us immediately, then we'll see you at Cantor at Your Own Risk number 17.
I just want to throw in, obviously you're listening to this, you're a film fan, check out, I have this new feature on the website, 9deuce.com/blogs/film-review-archive/. I know that's a lot, so if you just go to 9deuce.com and hover over blogs and go film reviews, you'll see film review archive. It's an archive of, like, I don't know, 500 plus films that have been reviewed. I felt this was a good place to mention that.
That probably is like the perfect venue to mention it.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys. I will see you later. Chris out.